If you are serious about learning how to find a way to help pay for recreational ground, listen up. This is a very interesting topic from a past guest on the Land Podcast with William Baker. He's in the Air Force and he's bought multiple multifamily units to help pay for his recreational ground. So basically he has one investment paying for the other investment. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this concept, learn a little bit. My name is Jake Hofer. I'm a real estate agent in the state of Illinois, co-owner of Exodus, and we have new uploads here every single Thursday and Saturday podcast on 5 a.m. anywhere you can listen to them. Hope you guys enjoy this. If you learned something, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's get into this conversation on how multifamily units can help pay for recreational ground. Here we go.
So would you say real estate is what kind of sets you up to be in this position to end up buying or, closing on a 250?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I kind of started like I was a saver as a kid, like I'd go mow the lawn for $10 and then at the end of the summer I could buy like a PlayStation,
sure,
but real estate, like I couldn't do it without real estate. If I put all my money, if I put 20% of my income in the stock market, I'd be doing well. With the run that we've had the last 5 years, I've done a lot better in real estate just because the stock market is so, there's buyers and sellers constantly. It's very, it's tough to find a deal, I think. I mean, there's a
sophisticated market.
Yeah. I mean, we're at a disadvantage too, unless you're working down on Wall Street in New York. I think most people are at a disadvantage. But if you're buying real estate in a local market where you have a competitive edge over others or whatever that competitive edge can be, you can beat the market, I would say. So when I started out, I didn't know much. I didn't even know how a mortgage worked. I mean, if I told you how I thought a mortgage worked before I bought my first house, you would laugh your tail off. But
what did you think?
So I thought and I should have just looked up a loan calculator, but I thought you took the amount that you needed to buy the property with, and if you had like a 3% interest rate or 4% interest rate, I thought you just gave the bank like $12,000 right up front, and then you're good, and then you divide your payments over 360 payments. That's what I thought. And then we got the first mortgage bill, and I was like, dang, this is a lot more than I thought. And pretty quick, I was like, oh, okay, that's how financing works. Got it. But like all I knew going into my first property buy was that this house in this market, it was the best property we looked at. And we looked at like 40 homes, and it's in a market that is appreciating pretty quickly. You can call it dumb luck. You can call it whatever you want. But the first one, after a year, our property appreciated, I don't know, maybe 5%, maybe 8%, pretty good. But it wasn't like I bought it pre-COVID and post-COVID. But we lived with roommates in our first place. Instead of paying like $1,200 for an apartment, I paid like $400, $450, and then plus utilities. I mean, if you look at like your budget, your biggest chunk of the pie usually is living expense. And I would take that and I shrunk that down to some months it was probably less than my gas bill, for driving around town. It was just like those little things to get ahead. And then you take that money and put it into the next one, stuff like that. So after we bought a place in Colorado Springs, I got stationed somewhere else, went out to Virginia. I bought the crappiest home on the best block I could find. And that was a learning experience. I don't want to say don't do it, but just be prepared. Because we did all right. I made a little bit of money, but more than anything, I got an education on how much work it takes. I probably had a couple thousand hours in this home over the course of the 3 years I was there.
So it was just way more work than you anticipated by buying the worst house?
I thought I could go in and I could paint the interior of the house in 7 to 10 days. And 14 days later, I had like the living room and the stairway painted. And it was a lath and plaster in the walls. So it would soak in that paint. So it was like running on a treadmill and it's just getting away from you,
Yeah.
So, but it was just all those little things, I learned more in that, a couple of years fixing that house than I probably did in college, in 4 years of college. So it was like I was paying for an education, but I also came out all right. So I did that.
Yeah, it sets you up for more deals down the road to know what to look for.
Exactly. Yep. And we sold that house in Virginia, and then we came out to Colorado again for my next assignment and bought another place. I was kind of over for a short time, like buying the worst house on the best block. But I found a house that I thought was undervalued in one of the better parts of town. So, and actually got it for a little bit under what they were asking, which in the last like 2 years is unheard of.
Right.
So I was happy with that. And then just turn that into a couple more rentals in the Midwest. And I'd go out, and whenever I had free time away from school, I'd be painting them or putting up light fixtures, new outlets, all sorts of new carpet, ripping out carpet, refinishing hardwood floors. So the whole time I knew what the end goal was. Like, it was to save up for that down payment. But one thing I wanted is I didn't want to save up for that down payment and then not have some sort of asset to pay the mortgage, which I think is like really important, because you can save up for a down payment, but all of a sudden, if you have, $1,000 a month that you've got to come up with every month after, that's no fun, So I wanted assets lined up that would help pay for them down the road. So that's why I've had to sell a couple properties, but if I sold one, I'd buy another one and just keep going. But if I could, I would refinance them with the bank with that sweat equity value that I created. And then I'd use that money so that you still own your asset, and that asset pays for, I don't want to call the farm that I'm getting a liability, but it does not produce an income at the moment. So
sure. And so just to break that down for folks listening. So basically the goal was, okay, if you're buying this piece of dirt that doesn't produce income, you want to have other assets that are at least taking or chipping away at that, annual or that monthly payment for the dirt.
Exactly. I mean, I listen to different podcasts on investing and stuff like that. And it's always, so-and-so wants a Tesla, so-and-so wants a sports car. And a lot of people will say, go buy something that will produce the income to pay that off. It's no different.
That's than that. That's a Grant Cardone thing, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a Grant Cardone, Brandon Turner. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah. And so for anyone that out there that doesn't know, I'm not familiar with the other guy, but Grant Cardone is a 10X guy, a real estate guy, giant rental
big personality. Personality. Absolutely.
And so his whole thing is, if you're buying something that's a luxury purchase, make sure you have the assets to basically pay for it. And until then, you can't afford it. This is kind of what it boils down to. So that makes sense. And I think it's tough, especially with land when it's not income producing. It's still appreciating, and you can still go in and quote unquote fix it up. Like if you buy an ugly piece of ground and make it more desirable, it's going to intrinsically increase the price. But in terms of cash flow, you're out of luck.
That was kind of the mindset going into that. I've tried to buy different pieces throughout the years, and to be honest, it was never quite the right time. And really it all came down to, okay, I have the down payment now, but if I go buy another property, it sucks. I'm going to go back to zero or closer to zero than where I am now. But I can make that cash flow machine that I'm just doing on the side start working for me for the long run. Because if you buy the farm first and you don't have anything to pay for it,
it's
a lot tougher to build that little ATM in the backyard that's paying for it. So